It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I truly feel surrounded by giant souls. The banquet hall was filled to overflowing. Men and women of all walks of life were standing around, anxiously awaiting for their honored guest to arrive. Enthusiastic cheers were heard as a tall, fine-looking young man entered the room and took his seat near the center of the guest table. He was their newly elected mayor, the youngest mayor that they had ever had. Many of the townsfolk had known him from the time that he was a boy. They were so proud of him. Minutes later, an old, white-haired lady entered the room. More cheers were heard and applause. She was the one who had given the town their library, their college, and their playground. Even though she had been away from them for many years, she loved the people of her town. Dinner was served, the tables were cleared, and the mayor rose to address the people. He spent a few minutes recollecting and reminiscing about growing up in the town. And then he said, "I believe that every soul is master of his own fate. I believe in being a self-made man, and while I am serving as your mayor, I will do all in my power to ensure that every young person in this town is given every opportunity for a good education and a fine career. One can make of himself what he will, with enough courage and determination. I am here to serve you all." And he returned to his seat amidst thunderous applause. Not once during the address had the eyes of the little white-haired lady been taken from the speaker. She seemed to be studying him more than his words. She was so deep in thought, she almost missed her introduction as the next speaker. She made her way to the podium and said, "Years ago, in this very town, there lived a teacher of 10 bright, happy little girls. They worked and they played together and they loved each other very dearly. And then one day, the teacher's husband became very ill and she had to move far away. She was very sad to leave the girls because even though she had spent much time trying to help them, she just wasn't sure that she had done enough. And so as the day came near for her to leave, she invited the girls to come spend one last evening in her home with her. And while they were there, she asked if they would each write a letter to her, and in that share their dearest wish of what they hoped to be when they grew up. One by one, 10 little heart-to-heart letters were laid on the table. 5 days later, as the teacher was traveling, she opened each of the letters and read them over and over again. Jenny wanted to be a singer. She wanted to go to New York and study opera. Catherine wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. Mary wanted to be a lawyer, a criminal lawyer. Louise wanted to be a nurse. As she read, the teacher felt reassured and smiled at the thought of all the influence for good that her girls would be. Then turning to the mayor of the city, she said, "Sir, I believe that you will have more interest in the contents of one of those letters than the rest. I was the teacher of those girls, and I can tell you exactly what the wording of that last letter was. Dear friend, you have asked us to give you our dearest wish. I have many wishes for the future, but the wish I want most of all is to be a fine and noble woman, and someday to be the kind of mother you have taught us so much about. The girl who wrote that letter, sir, became your mother. 14 years before you were born, your character was being formed. Your ideals were being molded. Your future was being safeguarded. I congratulate you, sir, on being elected to the office of mayor, but I congratulate you more for being the child of my little girl of the long ago who at 16 could write, 'More than anything, I want to be a fine woman and a noble mother.' To her, you owe much. Inspire the girls of the town if you plan for great men. A self-made man needs a noble mother to form the foundation of his character. There is no better way." Then the speaker sat down, and there was silence in the banquet hall. Over 100 years ago, Helen Hunt Jackson exclaimed, "Oh, if the world could only stop long enough for one generation of mothers to be all right. What a millennium could be begun in 30 years. It is my dearest hope that we can see that generation of mothers. And so I would like to direct my remarks to mothers of young children. Everything man creates in this world is but an outward expression of what he treasures in his heart. As Luke the physician wrote, the good man, out of the treasures of his heart, bringeth forth that which is good. You mothers are the guardians of the world's most important natural resource, the hearts of children. For far too long, you've been sent the message that the work that you do in your home is beneath you, and that there are more productive ways for you to spend your time. That is a lie. When a child's heart is most open and impressionable, you are there. As you hold your baby next to your heart, your skin is soft and warm. Your voice is sweet and melodic. The lullabies you hum bring a sense of calm and peace and order to the chaotic world your baby has suddenly entered. You provide the nourishment that satisfies the hunger, the gnawing hunger in his belly. And as you cradle him in your arms, your baby feels safe. Long before your baby can understand a single word, you are making long-lasting, deep impressions on his heart that tells him, I matter, I belong, and I am loved. The bond between a mother and a child is powerful and strong. It is because of this closeness to your child's heart that your influence and impact is so great. Your direct link to his heart is the reason why the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the nations. If you don't like what you see going on in the world, the truth of the matter is you are the one who can change it. For all true change lies in individual hearts. And as Frederick Douglass wisely observed, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Your heart work is vital to society, and we need to rally around, protect, encourage, and support you. Your baby's heart develops before your baby's brain within the womb, and outside the womb, his emotions develop before his intellect. While minds are fed with facts, information, and words, hearts are fed with impressions, feelings, and images. Nature has reserved the first years of your child's life, especially the first 8 years, for making impressions on his heart. The wise mother will use those years to fill his heart with the good, the beautiful, and the true. There's been a shift from heart to mind in childhood education over the last 100 years. This shift from heart to mind has not happened overnight or by accident. It has been with steady effort and by design. Some of the most influential men and women of the last century have held on to a dream that the world could be governed by reason. Reason, they say, can help us find solution to all of our problems. Reason, they think, can help us create a new moral code that's more practical and realistic. And what reasonable person would ever think that war is reasonable? And so we see academics and mind training skills introduced to our children at younger and younger ages, while their hearts are being neglected. The experiment has gone on long enough to see the results, and the result is our world has turned upside down. That which was good is now seen as bad, and that which was bad is now held up as good and desirable. It is a grave mistake to attempt to train the intellect of a child before we have tended to his heart. Our world will only be brought back into balance when we place heart and mind in their proper order. This course correction won't require any governor's signature or committee to debate its merits. It will require no government funding. In fact, it doesn't require any funding at all. It's perfectly free to implement, and it can be implemented today. More than 200 years ago, the Swiss educator Pestalozzi wrote, It is for a long time the business of the heart before it is the business of reason. The eternal laws of nature lead me back to your hand, Mother. Mother, I can keep my innocence, my love, my obedience, the excellences of my nobler nature with the new impressions of the world, all at your side only, close quote. The shift back from mind to heart will be found in the music you play in your home. It will be in the art that you hang in your walls. It will be in the poetry you share by heart because you love it. And most of all, it will be found in the stories that you share with your children. Music, pictures, poetry, and story are the languages of the heart. And the more you use those languages with your young children, the more they will comprehend. The story is one of your most useful tools. Telling a story is how you can take words and convert them into moving images, which your child's heart will recognize and attach feelings to. Storytelling is an ageless and a beautiful art that has been used for hundreds and thousands of years to convey values and traditions from generation to generation and from heart to heart. In the quiet hours when the lights are low and your children are in a calm and receptive mood, the stories you tell them will never be forgotten, and they will influence them for the rest of their lives. And in the process, your hearts will be knit together. And now, mothers, I will tell you why I think you are going to be able to do something that no generation of mothers before you has been able to do. You live in the season of the harvest, and what a bounteous harvest it is. For 6,000 years, mankind has been preserving its finest ideas and ideals in art, music, and literature. And now modern technology has delivered these right to your home where they can do the most good. The eyes of all those who sweat and suffered, sacrificed, and labored are upon you. They have gifted you with all you need to raise the most refined, the noblest, and the most wise generation that has ever walked the earth. Where much is given, much is required. And what is required of you is first to fill your own heart with good treasure from the harvest, because what is in your heart will naturally flow into the heart of your child. It is your love of all that is good and beautiful, combined with your love of your child, that will enable you to do what no one else can. Then you will need to relearn the lost arts of heart education that have been brushed aside in our age of reason. But there's good news. Just over 100 years ago, there was a revival in the art of storytelling among mothers and teachers of young children. As part of that revival, warm-hearted educators, heart specialists, carefully wrote instructions on how to educate children's hearts. And then they left a treasure trove of stories for us to tell. Stories that inspire the heart with goodness and with possibilities. Stories from nature, from history, from great lives, from fine art and music, fairy tales, and tales of epic and legendary heroes, and stories of faith. Many of these writings have been buried in dusty corners of university libraries during the reign of the mind, but they've been brought back into the light for all of us to read and study, thanks to the digitizing efforts of organizations like Internet Archive, Google, and Gutenberg. I've spent the last several years immersed in these writings, and they have filled my life with joy and with hope. I'm excited to share them with you, and I will tell you more about where you can find them tomorrow at 3 o'clock at Forum 3. It's wrong in your programs, but if you can remember Forum 3 at 3, I think you have cards on your chairs that will remind you of that. But more importantly, I hope you will join us, because I will be participating with a team of wonderful men and women. And our intention is to begin a new revival in storytelling in the home, and you are invited to help us launch this important project. This revival is meant to span the globe and to travel family to family and heart to heart. I hope you will come. It's for everyone. Vincent van Gogh said, "It is good to love many things, for therein lies the true strength. And whosoever loves much performs much and can accomplish much. And what is done in love is done well." To help a child love much is the divine charge given to mothers, and divine gifts are given her to accomplish it. This is the day of the harvest. It is a day to thrust in your sickle and reap with diligence, because you know what follows fall's harvest. Already you may be seeing the signs of approaching winter. The leaves are changing color and starting to drop off the trees. There's a bit of a chill in the air, but you don't have to be afraid. Within the harvest are lessons on how to survive harsh winters. And if you've been wise, you will have stored enough to sustain yourself through cold winter months when nothing grows. Winter can be a time to rest from heavy labors, to wrap up in a warm blanket and sit before the fire and reflect on those things that really matter. Even on the coldest day of winter is found great beauty. Some of the greatest masterpieces of art, literature, and music have come from history's winters. And if the winter's day should be what should seem long and dark and dreary, you can hold on to the hope and promise of spring, because spring always follows winter, always. And it will be a time of new beginnings. It will be a time of clearing away rotting leaves and digging new furrows in the earth and planting the seeds you harvested from the fruits of fall. And there will be fresh, scented breezes. I realize the number of harvesters may be small, but I've baked enough bread to know that a little bit of leaven raises the whole loaf. Mothers, will you be that leaven? By small and simple things, you can accomplish that which is great. Remember this story with which I will close. A certain man had a friend who was a beekeeper. Upon visiting him one day, he found his friend in great despair. "I'm ruined," he said. "All my honey is bitter." The man carefully and thoughtfully considered the situation and then suggested they rise early in the morning and see if they could follow the swarm of bees to see what they were feeding on. They found them out behind an old abandoned bottling factory, where there were barrels of rotting, gooey, icky syrups from which the bees were filling their little pollen sacs and flying back to the hives. The man offered, "Change what your bees are feeding on, and you will change the quality of your honey." Mothers, as you pay attention to the quality of stories your children's hearts are feeding on, you will not only improve the quality of their lives, you will improve the quality of the world. Stories can heal our hearts. Stories can heal our homes. Don't underestimate the power of a story. Thank you.